lights actually, but I'll have to turn on the transformer. And although you probably, yeah, actually, let me get some lights going here. Hear the hum of the transformer. So I usually have dinosaur rock playing. There. So here I still use coal. Here's my coal forge. It's really messy, but it's great for concentrated heat in a small area. It's really
supposed to be messy.
Yeah, that's not the point. But for longer heats, I use a gas forge over here. This is like a school. It's a trench forge. It has 3 burners, and it makes a big roar because it's has a big heavy blower on it. So I can take a heat. I work the metal across it this way or this way to take a longer heat for certain work. And I just block it around to hold the heat in and have it heat better. And then for small work, so a lot of the work is done by hand. This is the scale. Are you taking a movie?
Yeah.
I'm in the movies. This is the
No,
scale. So you have hot metal and you're moving it, and the surface is constantly oxidizing, but the oxide is not plastic like the metal. So it's constantly shedding the surface. So the more you heat and work a piece, the more you lose in oxidation in the form of forge scale. And when you buy a bar from the warehouse, it has mill scale on it because they roll them out red hot in the mill. And so there's the forge, and then this is the power hammer, which does the heavy work. And this is a 7,500 pound machine altogether, but it's a 2-piece machine. This is the anvil here, and there's the base of the anvil down there, and the base has a flange that's mounted on these big bolts that go down 6 feet, actually.
Holy
those bolts.
goodness.
It's mounted on 11 inches of oak that's been impregnated with linseed oil, and then the foundation goes down 6 feet underneath the anvil, which is 2,000 pounds or 1 ton. This anvil weighs the same as that table over there. And then the machine itself is 5,500 pounds, and you mount the anvil first, and then you have to lift the machine over and mount it and wedge it in place. And these bolts go through the foundation, but the foundation is not as deep on the back of it. But this is called the air hammer. It's a modern, it's electro-pneumatic, and it has a motor that has a pinion gear on it that drives a flywheel that has a pinion on grooved part of it that's under a guard because you don't want to get anything caught in there. It'll just eat you up. So 7.5 horsepower, and then this makes the flywheel go, and the inside this housing is a single throw crank like this on the end of that shaft, and it drives a great big piston. It's an air compressing piston, and then you have a double rotary valve that actuates a free floating 250 pound ram that's manifolded. So it's like cylinders within cylinders with seals to get it to work. And I could fire this thing up, I guess. And it's very antiquated oiling. You have gravity oilers on the main shaft, and then the rest of the machine and joints is all on a pump oiler that you have to prime. So I'm priming the pump, and I look through the sight glass at the feed hooks. I'm making sure that this line is going, and there's 2 lines that I haven't run the hammer in a while. So now I've got 2 lines going. I still have to prime it more. I have to wait. This little middle one
is dropping.
No, not yet. Oh, come on. I can't turn the hammer on until they're all working.
When was the last time you turned it on?
Oh, a couple days ago.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay,
it's there now.
Okay, good. Now I can. So I've got the power on. So it's that's not the original motor was a lot bigger because of technology, winding and motor design technology. The motor was probably more than twice as big as that one. So you can see the base for it is huge. So anyway, now we can turn it on. And I have to make sure the oiler. That ram is just free floating. There's no direct mechanical link. It's just air pushing it up and pushing it down. When I turn it off, it's losing the air that holds it up, and then it drops down. See that? And then if I'm going to turn it on, I release everything so the motor can start easier. And I keep the block under there so that when I'm grinding, which just has all kinds of grit and stuff, that I'm not getting the abrasive back up in those oiled seals. So that's just when I'm not using the hammer, I keep a block to keep the the shaft of the hammer clean. And these are some of the tooling I use under the hammer. That's for doing an offset. I lay that right on there, and it'll be angled on one side and flat on the other. And this is for doing a taper. This is I lay that right on the bottom. I can. So I would come out and have my work like this. To do a taper really thick. You see, everything you touch in a blacksmith shop will get dirty. Now I have to remember to turn off the gravity feed oilers. It's such an aggravation. I wish they were all mechanical, but I can just, once the pump is primed, I can just go. But I would need a 5-quart oiler for that. And they're hard to come by. So that's about it until you want to get to work. But when you come to work in the shop, you got to have the leather shoes, cotton pants, cotton shirt, earplugs, eye protection, and gloves. And for just general work, you can use light leather gloves. But for hot work, I prefer, these are getting worn out and they tend to catch fire when the ends get frayed. But these are cotton gloves. Ironworkers gloves, they're not really welding gloves, but they're cotton. They insulate even better than leather. And you know, if you're working hard, you'll go through a pair of these in a day, or even more than that if you're really going at it. So yeah, it's heavy work. And then over here is the coal that hasn't been burned yet. Here's a shovel I made for shoveling. You made that? Coal. Yeah, I made that shovel.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, forged out the handle, and then this you make out of around a form. You hammer the sides in on a form. I can show you that sometime if you want.
I like and
this is a handle that just been tapered out and then folded back with an eye and twisted on itself and then curled around. I used to do a lot of fire tools like that. There's another little tool that's a twisted, this tiny little flat stock. It's like 3/32 by 3/8, something like that, and been all forged out to. This is a spoon for welding flux when I'm forge welding, to be able to, you know, put it right on the piece when it's in the fire.
And those are all your...
Yeah, different. Oh, they're not all hammers. I need to point this out. Most of these are what I call stricken tools. That means you strike them. You lay them on the work. Like this is a little tiny punch. And if you're punching something, you lay that on the work and you hammer it, and then you flip it around and punch it. You go 2/3 through, then flip it, then a little plug will come out the side you first punched on. So these are different size punches, square punches, oval punches, and then these are cutters. This is hot chisels. These are all hot chisels. This is actually a cold chisel, but it can be used hot if you wanted to blunt. These are top swedges. Remember we talked about the swedge block? Mm-hmm. Well, the top swedges, when you had people helping you in the shop, you can see that's just a half cylinder form, and
compared to the other one,
like if you're finishing up brown stock, So there would be the top and bottom swedge. So the work goes through there, and you hold it over in your striker. Or, you have somebody either holding the work and you're striking, or you're holding this and having them strike. So that's how you round a piece back out. You have the forge. And so we haven't even gotten to the hammers yet. So these are this is a hammer here actually, but all these are stricken tools. And this is a flatter, set tool, side set, small set, dome set, and these are fullers. The opposite of swedging is fullering. You take a cylindrical shape and you drive it into the work. And this is another shape for a fuller on the end of a bar like this. But the trouble is when you're holding it over the work, the heat is going right up to where your hand is. So you have to have long handled. Or I know guys have gone to using tongs and having a shape they can hold over the work. This is actually a stricken tool just to give a rounded impression. So anything you can see that heel on, it's not meant to hammer with. And then these are different. These are weighted leather mallets when I don't want to mark the piece, but I need to move it. And unweighted mallets, and often I'll just hold this and then hammer the other side of it when I don't want to mark the work. And then bronze and copper mallets that tend to get more mushroomed in time. This is a V-top fuller with a rounded end. And then these are hammers. This is a rounding hammer that I made from a little single jack. And then this is, I modified a hammer to make this one. And this is a rounding, what do you call it? Peen. This is the peen. This is a cross peen because it goes across the axis of the handle. And it's a traditional blacksmith hammer, sometimes called engineer's hammer, is a cross peen hammer. So that's a classic blacksmith hammer there. And this is more the Swedish style, where the head and heel are tapered more dramatically. This is a German pattern cross peen hammer. And this is a straight peen, which is very rarely used. Sort of a ball peen style straight peen. Straight meaning the peen goes in the same line as the handle. And some blacksmiths will make a peen hammer that's with 45-degree angle one way and then the other way, so they can get different effects. This is a French style here that has this little offset on the top of the peen and very squared off in the front, and so on. And then tongs. These are scroll tongs for just working the little ends, little tiny ends, like this. You would finish this off with this. Or, yeah, probably.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. And then for really small work, small tongs, even some old, I don't use these much, but every once in a while, the old channel locks. And then these are the tongs over here, and different tools that fit in the anvil for putting the work on and hammering it into. And I don't actually have a very big tong collection, and they're pretty sorry. I haven't made many of them. And it's not uncommon for a shop to have 300 pairs of tongs, because you need to have a tong that holds the work. There's, you've got to have a good grip, and to have a good grip, you have to have a jaw that fits the work perfectly. The jaw is the part that holds the work. That's a wolf jaw tong. Commercially made in Germany by Pettinghaus. And this is just a round nose tong for holding a round piece, but sometimes it's handy for thin flat too, but mainly round. This is a 3/8 made in the USA, or half inch round. Hey.
Hey, Dan.
Hey! I was
I'm
calling you.
I'm waiting late. I'm getting these to you.
Hey,
man.
Bob.
How are you, buddy?
Hey, lucky man. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, good to see you. Watch out. I'm dirty.
You're working, man.
Yeah. I'm just showing my friend Tron.
Hey, John.
The